Hello chess lovers, and welcome back to Nexus Chess Journey. Every chess player experiences periods of being on fire, where everything clicks, and times when they feel fatigued or off their game. In this video, we will take a closer look at an incredible match where Hikaru Nakamura defeated Magnus Carlsen in just 22 moves during the Champion Chess Tour Final, Round 2, held on August 16, 2020. In the Champion Chess Tour 2020, the showdown between Hikaru Nakamura and Magnus Carlsen captured the attention of chess fans worldwide. In Round 2, anticipation was high as Nakamura, known for his aggressive style, faced off against the reigning world champion. The round began with Nakamura displaying his tactical prowess, managing to outmaneuver Carlsen in the first game by exploiting small inaccuracies. Carlsen, ever resilient, fought back fiercely, demonstrating his deep understanding of the game in the subsequent matches. Each game became a back-and-forth exchange, featuring sharp tactics, creative sacrifices, and intense calculations that kept viewers on the edge of their seats. The game was played in a rapid format, with each player having 15 minutes plus a 10-second increment per move. Let's dive into the game. Hikaru Nakamura started with the pawn to e4, answered by e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5, using the Spanish opening or Ruy Lopez. Then Magnus chose to play knight to f6, opting for the Berlin defense. The pawn was pushed to d3 to support the central pawn, followed by bishop to c5, preparing for castling and also monitoring the weak f2 pawn. The knight moved forward, and the bishop directly exchanged with the knight. If we rush to capture the central pawn, there's a queen tactic threatening checkmate while also attacking the knight, making this pawn toxic. Now, the knight moved to d2 first to defend each knight. Then came the castling idea, with the queen to e2 supporting the pawn. At this point, if the central pawn is captured, for example, the queen to d4 still holds. The knight to g4 now supports the pawn, and the bishop takes the knight, also threatening the queen. The threat of checkmate is there, and if the queen captures the bishop, the queen takes the pawn, checking the king. The knight then captures the queen, clearly indicating that black wins decisively. Therefore, let's go back. The queen moved to e2 to support the advancing pawn, making the central pawn a threat. The rook on e8 supports the pawn, and knight to c4 puts pressure on the pawn twice. The knight on d7 not only supports the central pawn but also helps solidify the pawns together. Then bishop to d2 maintains flexibility for either kingside or queenside castling. Seeing this, Magnus Carlsen took the initiative with b5, which, if castled, would gain tempo to threaten the knight. If queenside castling is agreed upon, the game will be aggressive. The knight to e3 saves itself, maneuvering to a more active square, and knight to f8 follows suit for Magnus Carlsen. With the initiative, h4 pushes the pawn forward, focusing on the plan but also blocking this pawn, which is accepted by Hikaru Nakamura. The move of the queen was a choice here, a5 was selected, threatening from the queenside. Besides this move, there was an interesting option. Some might ask why not play the knight to the center, opening the rook and threatening the knight while tempo attacking the queen. It makes sense, but here white has the option of the knight capturing the f7 pawn, a brilliant move. If the king captures, then the queen checks while also threatening the bishop. Here, white is clearly better while also supporting the c2 pawn, preventing the knight from advancing and avoiding any forks against white. Analyzing the second scenario, let's consider what happens if the knight captures the queen. The knight can also capture the queen, saving itself and supporting the pawn threat while also preventing any forks against white. If the rook captures the knight, the pawn can take the knight, and the bishop can take the pawn. Here, we see that the pawns are stacked. There is also a pawn advantage, and the computer shows that white is in a better position. Returning, Magnus Carlsen chose b5, followed by the queen moving to h5, threatening check on f7. The pawn threatens the queen, and the queen retreats to f3, keeping an eye on the f7 pawn. At this point, an interesting option arises where the knight can capture the pawn on c6, threatening the queen twice while attacking the a5 pawn. The queen moves to d7, currently threatening the knight. So, friends, pause this video. What brilliant move should Hikaru Nakamura play in this position? Congratulations if you found the move. The queen captures the pawn on f6, sacrificing the knight for a forward attack to bring the bishop to support the queen for checkmate. Nakamura decided on the queen capturing the knight from Magnus Carlsen, and the bishop went to c3. However, there was an interesting option in this position. Moving the knight to g4 directly threatens checkmate on h6. For example, if the bishop goes to f8 to prevent the knight from delivering check, the knight instead moves to the center, controlling many squares and also threatening the queen. If the queen tries to escape, moving to f7 results in check, and the king moves to h8, there's something interesting here, the queen can capture the rook, and white has the advantage. If the knight captures, the bishop is also currently threatening the queen and king, and another intriguing idea involves the h5 pawn. With this slow but deadly move, we will show you something interesting. If black accepts, the rook captures, leading to a checkmate threat on h7 that cannot be prevented. If the knight moves to g7, then the knight moves to g6 for a check. The pawn is pinned, leading to a sequence where the queen captures the queen, resulting in a significant advantage and an unavoidable checkmate threat. Now, if it is declined and the king moves to g5, the knight still delivers a check. The pawn captures the knight, leading to an open check where the bishop blocks, and it can simply be taken for a checkmate. It's fascinating how these combinations can occur. Returning, Hikaru Nakamura opted for the more certain move of the bishop to c3, threatening a checkmate in a few moves. This was countered by the rook moving to f8, which threatened the queen. The queen continued checking, the king moved to f7, and the queen captured the pawn on h7 for a check. The king then moved to e8, and the queen began capturing pawns one by one. Now, we see the position in file C, with black's pieces stacked. The d4 pawn threatens the bishop while also preparing a potential fork, readying a long roll to control file D and threaten the king. The b4 pawn still threatens the bishop, but simply capturing the bishop is sufficient. Here, Magnus Carlsen resigned on move 22. Why? If the bishop is accepted now, the rook delivers a tempo check, the king moves to e7, and the knight checks. The king moves to d8, and the knight moves to b4 for an open check, also threatening the queen. If the queen blocks, the knight goes to c6. Believe it or not, this results in a checkmate, with the queen pinned. It's incredibly interesting to see the extraordinary combinations and how Hikaru Nakamura's top performance managed to defeat Magnus Carlsen in this game in just 2 moves. Thank you for watching this thrilling chess match. We encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this game and want to see more exciting chess matches, be sure to check out our previous videos. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and invite them to play chess. We look forward to seeing you in the next video, and remember to subscribe to Nexus Chess Journey for more chess content.